You come back from the war broke with only your passion and a dream. The story of one of the most iconic brands that exists starts like this. You surely know the name Lamborghini, synonymous with luxury and power, but the story behind this man, Ferruccio Lamborghini, is even more incredible than the cars he created. But how did a former prisoner of war become one of the biggest names in the automotive industry? How did he defy Enzo Ferrari, who saw him as just a simple farmer, and build a car that would surpass the Ferraris themselves? And most importantly, how did a simple insult spark the flame that led to the creation of Lamborghini? Hello everyone, it's Robin, back for the Asphalt Legends series, where I explore the incredible stories of the biggest car brands and their founders. By the way, let me know in the comments which one you would like to discover next. Today I'm going to tell you how this legendary battle with Enzo Ferrari, the founder of the famous Ferrari 250 GT, turned Ferruccio into an icon of the automotive industry. Hold on. You're going to discover an exceptional journey, full of challenges, rivalries, and audacity, but also full of ego. Ferruccio Lamborghini was born in 1916, in the middle of nowhere, in the small village of Rivalry in Italy. It was a difficult time, and like most Italian families in this region, his parents, Antonio and Evelina Lamborghini, worked hard to support their family through farming. The Lamborghinis were convinced that their son Ferruccio would naturally follow in their footsteps and take over the family farm. But Ferruccio, he saw things a little differently. As a child, while other children in the area were running in the fields or helping their parents pick grapes, Ferruccio was much more fascinated by the agricultural machines that crossed the vineyards. He could spend hours observing the operation of tractors and combine harvesters that ran the farm. He was obsessed with understanding how these machines worked. To him, there was something magical about mechanical engineering, this ability to transform raw force into controlled power. In a traditional Italian family at the time, this passion was frowned upon. His parents were puzzled by their son's greater interest in engines over vineyards. Most people in their village thought Ferruccio was completely crazy. After all, in this rural Italy, stability was in the land, not in the machines. The mechanization of agriculture was still in its early stages, and few people realized the essential role machines would soon play. But Ferruccio was stubborn, even if he respected his parents and understood their point of view. He felt deep down that his destiny was not in the vineyards, but in engines and mechanics. And as soon as he could, he tinkered with the old farm equipment, often to his father's great dismay. Antonio, a proud man attached to his traditions, would go completely mad seeing his son disassemble machines that were very expensive, instead of learning to manage the family estate. Yet every repair that Ferruccio made worked better than the previous one, which already showed his natural talent for engineering. At 16, he was already able to repair almost all the farm equipment. While many would have been impressed by Ferruccio's technical skills, his parents, for their part, remained skeptical. They saw him as a young dreamer, not focused enough on what they considered to be the real priorities: the vineyard, the land, and tradition. But Ferruccio had much bigger dreams. After long discussions and against his father's will, Ferruccio managed to convince his parents to let him pursue a career in mechanics. He enrolled at the Fratelli Taddei Technical Institute, a school known for training the best mechanical engineers in the region. For Ferruccio, every day spent at the institute was a new revelation. Where some of his friends saw mechanics as a simple succession of technical tasks, Ferruccio saw it as art. Every gear, every part, every engine was for him a work to perfect. And his teachers quickly realized his talent, but especially his obsession with precision and efficiency. After completing his studies with distinction, Ferruccio could have pursued a conventional route and sought employment in a factory or machine shop. But Ferruccio had the spirit of an entrepreneur, someone who wanted to create and not just follow. He then decided to start his own workshop in his hometown. He was only 18 years old, but he was already convinced that he was destined to do something great. With his childhood friend Marino Filippini, Ferruccio opened a small mechanical workshop in a quiet corner of Renasso. The workshop was modest, a simple, converted barn with a few basic tools. But for Ferruccio, it was the place where he was going to start turning his dreams into reality. The beginnings were tough. Few customers trusted such a young mechanic, but thanks to his determination and talent, People started talking about him. Gradually, he gained a regional reputation, and his workshop began drawing customers from the entire area. Yet Ferruccio knew deep down that this was just the beginning. He felt he was destined to accomplish greater things. Before achieving his goals, life had a new challenge for him. The war would soon change everything. While Ferruccio Lamborghini was laying the first foundations of his future, the world around him plunged into chaos. World War II broke out in 1939, taking with it the dreams and ambitions of millions of young men, including Ferruccio. He had barely begun to build his reputation as a mechanic. Italy then joined the Axis forces. Like many other young men his age, he was called to serve. Ferruccio was recruited into the Italian army and sent to Rhodes, Greece. Charged with the maintenance and repair of military vehicles, he held a strategic position. For Ferruccio, this role was both a constraint but also an opportunity. He longed for his workshop in Renazzo and the peace of his life before the war. But the war, with its constraints and brutal daily life, also offered Ferruccio the chance to perfect his skills under extreme conditions. He repaired military vehicles daily, frequently with scarce resources during emergencies. This experience would shape his approach to mechanics: speed, efficiency, ingenuity. Faced with difficulties, Ferruccio developed an ability to improvise, to adapt parts, to make machines functional, even when everything seemed against him. For 3 years, he tirelessly optimized the Italian army's trucks, jeeps, and tanks. But in 1943, events took a new turn. Italy capitulated, and the German forces took control of the island of Rhodes. Ferruccio, like many other Italian soldiers, was trapped. However, his resourcefulness was noticed. The German forces, while taking control of the garrison, allowed him to continue working as a mechanic. But Ferruccio was far from his family, from his native Italy, and living under occupation. But this was far from the end of his problems. Later, the Allied forces landed, and after fierce battles, captured the island. Ferruccio was then captured, this time by the Allies. As a prisoner of war, he could have given up, but once more, his mechanical talent opened doors for him. The Allies, recognizing his skills, decided to use him to maintain their military vehicle. He thus worked in captivity for nearly a year. A trial, certainly, but one that allowed Ferruccio to further perfect his skills and acquire valuable experience that would serve him later in his career. When he was finally released and returned to Italy in 1946, Ferruccio found a country in ruins. The economy was in ruins, the agricultural sector in disarray, and most families, including his, were struggling to get by. Ferruccio lost more than just time during the war. His wife, Clelia Monti, died while giving birth to their son, Tonino. It was a devastating blow for him, one of the darkest moments of his life. Despite the immense loss, Ferruccio did not let himself be beaten down and immediately threw himself back into work. He needed to restart his small workshop in Renazzo, which was inactive during the war. He resumed his repair activities, mainly dealing with demobilized military vehicles and old trucks that had survived the bombing. But you're starting to know our dear Ferruccio. He saw things on a large scale, even a very large scale. While working on his aging machines, Ferruccio had an important realization. If Italy wanted to recover after the war, it would need to quickly mechanize its agriculture. The nation could no longer rely on outdated farming practices. More efficient machines were needed, tractors capable of plowing more land, more quickly and with fewer resources. That's when Ferruccio had a stroke of genius. Drawing on his experience gained during the war, he realized that large quantities of unused military equipment were available. The army, at the end of the conflict, had left behind stocks of equipment that had no value in a peace context. Ferruccio saw an opportunity in it. Why not reuse these parts to build low-cost tractors accessible to Italian farmers who needed them so much? With his clear vision and mechanical expertise, Ferruccio embarked on this bold project. In his modest workshop, he started converting military engines and components into agricultural machines. By improving engine efficiency, he created tractors that were durable and affordable for the poor post-war farmers. This intuition paid off. Very quickly, these tractors became the favorites of local farmers and demand skyrocketed. Word of mouth spread quickly, and within months, Lamborghini tractors symbolized the renewal of Italian agriculture. To meet this growing demand, Ferruccio founded Lamborghini Trattori in 1948, and it was the start of an incredible industrial success. But despite this success, large-scale production required capital. Ferruccio, true to his roots and his family, asked for the help of his father, Antonio Lamborghini. Once reluctant to the idea of his son leaving the vineyards for machines, he now believed in his vision. He agreed to put the family farm up as collateral to obtain a bank loan. It was a risky bet, but a winning one. Thanks to this financing, Ferruccio was able to increase production and quickly make Lamborghini Trattori one of the main tractor manufacturers in Italy. With the success of his business, Ferruccio entered a new phase of his life. He had not only managed to turn his passion for mechanics into an industrial empire, but he had also helped his country rebuild after the war. In a few years, Ferruccio Lamborghini became a wealthy and influential man, celebrating his successes with what he loved most: good food, fine wine, and fast cars. After spending years building sturdy and efficient tractors, he turned to another world that had always fascinated him: sports cars. His success finally allowed him to live this dream. In the 50s and 60s, Ferruccio began to collect some of the most prestigious cars of the time: Jaguar, Mercedes, Maserati. His personal garage was becoming a real museum of the best automotive creations. But one brand in particular caught his attention: Ferrari. At the time, Ferrari was already a household name in the world of sports cars, embodying Italian elegance and performance. Fascinated by its red speedsters, Ferruccio bought several Ferrari models, convinced he was owning the best there was. Yet behind this apparent admiration hid a growing frustration. Ferruccio was not only a manufacturer, but also a skilled mechanic who understood the smallest technical details of his vehicles. And it was precisely this expertise that turned his joy of driving into chronic annoyance. In particular, one car was going to mark a turning point in his relationship with Ferrari: the Ferrari 250 GT, one of the most prestigious models of the brand. At first sight, the machine was perfect: fast, elegant, and built for speed lovers. But over time, Ferruccio began to notice flaws. The most irritating among them was the recurring clutch problem. Every time he drove his Ferrari, the clutch would break or deteriorate quickly, forcing him to return to his mechanic for frequent repairs. Initially, Ferruccio thought it was an isolated problem, perhaps due to his driving style. After several costly repairs, he chose to inspect the part more thoroughly. And what he discovered made him furious. The clutch of the Ferrari, this luxury car for which he had paid completely astronomical sums, was almost identical to the one used in his own Lamborghini tractors. The difference being that while the clutch of these tractors cost a dozen euros, today Ferrari charged hundreds, even thousands of euros for the same part. And for a man like Ferruccio, with his keen eye as a mechanic, this was unacceptable. He felt cheated, not only as a customer, but also as a professional mechanic. Furious, he decided to confront the creator of these cars, the legendary Enzo Ferrari, directly. Ferruccio was not a man to be walked over. He strongly held that customers had the right to voice their critiques and expectations, even when dealing with a respected figure like Enzo Ferrari. So he made an appointment with him, determined to express his dissatisfaction and to propose technical improvements for his cars. However, the meeting between the two men did not go at all as Ferruccio had hoped. Enzo Ferrari was known for his strong character, to say the least, and his immense pride. He had little patience for criticism, especially when it came from a man he considered above all as a simple farmer, a tractor builder, and not a sports car expert. When Ferruccio began to discuss the technical problems of his Ferrari and suggest improvements, Ferrari abruptly interrupted him. His tone was contemptuous, almost condescending. With an arrogance that would go down in history, Enzo Ferrari declared, "You are a farmer. You know nothing about sports cars. Go back to your actor and let me do my business." For Ferruccio, this remark was a real blow. Not only had he been insulted, but his technical expertise and years of experience in mechanics had been disdainfully dismissed. That day in Enzo Ferrari's office, Ferruccio Lamborghini's heart was ignited. There was no question for him to leave this insult unanswered. Ferrari had just underestimated a man who had built an empire with his own hands, a man who never backed down from a challenge. With astonishing calm, Ferruccio replied, "Very well, I will show you how to make a real sports car." This confrontation between two Italian giants marked the start of a rivalry that would forever alter automotive history. Ferruccio, stung in his pride, made the decision to create his own sports car brand. It had become a mission for him. He wanted to prove to Enzo Ferrari and the whole world that a simple farmer could build a car capable of surpassing the Ferraris. He knew he had the technical skills, the experience in mass production, and above all, the unwavering determination to achieve it. As soon as he returned to Renaso, Ferruccio set about designing what would become his first sports car. Unlike Ferrari, who focused on racing cars, Ferruccio wanted high-performing vehicles that were also comfortable and reliable. Cars that one could drive on the road with as much pleasure as on the track. He set to work tirelessly, recruiting some of the best engineers in the Italian automotive industry, including several former Ferrari employees. The news spread quickly. Ferruccio Lamborghini, the king of tractors, was getting into the sports car manufacturing. And as you might guess, many thought he was crazy. Some thought he was going to squander his fortune on an impossible venture. After all, challenging Ferrari in its own field was madness to many, but Ferruccio was not discouraged. In under a year, he unveiled the Lamborghini 350 GT to the world, a revolutionary sports car that would not only compete with Ferrari, but also redefine the standards of luxury automobiles. When he left Enzo Ferrari's office, Ferruccio Lamborghini was not only driven by the desire to prove that he could do better, he was possessed by a greater ambition. He wanted to redefine what a sports car meant. It wouldn't just be about speed or track performance, as Ferrari had always advocated. So for Ferruccio, a true sports car had to embody the perfect balance between power, elegance, and comfort. It had to be beautiful to look at, exciting to drive, but above all usable for everyday use and therefore reliable. That was the whole difference between his vision and that of Ferrari. With this idea, he founded Automobili Lamborghini in 1963. It was no longer a modest project, like when he started his mechanical workshop in the village of Renaso. This time, Ferruccio had lofty ambitions. He chose a strategic location in Sant'Agata Bolognese, not far from his tractor factory, and built an ultra-modern factory. He knew the key to success wasn't just infrastructure. He needed the best talent from Italy's automotive industry. Ferruccio didn't waste any time. With his network, charisma, and above all his reputation, he managed to attract several renowned engineers, some of whom had worked at Ferrari. Among them were notably Gianpaolo Dallara and Paolo Stanzani, two of the best engineers of the time, and Franco Serglione, a brilliant designer. Ferruccio gave them total freedom. He wanted an exceptional car, one that surpasses everything Ferrari had to offer. But with one golden rule, it had to be as pleasant to drive on the road as on the track. The first Lamborghini car, the 350 GT, was born in just a few months. It was a tour de force, especially at the time. First presented in 1964 at the Turin Auto Show, the 350 GT made a sensation. It is equipped with a powerful 512 engine, designed by Giacomo Bizzarini, another talented engineer poached from Ferrari. This engine delivered impressive power for the time, while being surprisingly smooth and easy to handle. Beyond its performance, the 350 GT impressed with its refined design and high-quality finishes. Ferruccio had managed to create a car that perfectly combined elegance, comfort, and power, a luxury car with supercar performance. The reviews were rhapsodic. Even those who had doubted Ferruccio, those who thought he would squander his fortune trying to challenge Ferrari, had to admit that he had succeeded there, a true masterpiece. But for Ferruccio, the 350 GT was just the beginning. It wasn't just about competing with Ferrari. He wanted to create something lasting, a true empire that would mark the history of the automobile. Despite the success of the 350 GT, Ferruccio remained unsatisfied. His entrepreneurial drive persisted. He encouraged his team to go even further, to push the limits of what a sports car could be. Where other manufacturers were content to improve existing models, Ferruccio always demanded more innovation. It was in this spirit that he let his engineers work freely on more audacious projects, pushing them to explore new ideas without constraint. And it was in this atmosphere of unbridled creativity that another legendary model was born, the Lamborghini Miura. This model, unveiled in 1966, was not just a new milestone for Lamborghini. It was a real revolution in the world of sports cars. The Miura was the first production car to incorporate a mid-rear engine, a technical innovation that would redefine the way sports cars were designed. Until then, most sports cars, including Ferraris, had their engine at the front, but the Miura, with its engine positioned just behind the seats, offered unprecedented balance and handling. This concept was revolutionary, and initially, Ferruccio himself was skeptical. He was not a big fan of racing cars, always having thought that automotive engineering should be oriented towards comfort and daily use. But these engineers, passionate about the idea of creating the first supercar, persisted. Finally, Ferruccio gave them the green light, and it was one of the best decisions of his career. The Miura quickly became a symbol of prestige and performance, admired by the whole world. With its sleek look, its 512 engine, and its sculptural lines, it was more than a car, it was a work of art on wheels. The Miura quickly became one of the world's most desired cars. Celebrities, influential businessmen, and even heads of state all wanted to own a Miura. With this model, Lamborghini had established itself as a luxury automobile leader. The Miura was not just competing with Ferrari, it had redefined the supercar category. The success was such that the Miura became an absolute benchmark for all future high-end sports cars. Ferruccio Lamborghini had now accomplished what he had promised to Enzo Ferrari. He had created a car that surpassed Ferrari, not only in terms of performance, but also in terms of style and elegance. In just a few years, Automotive Lamborghini had established itself as a major player in the world of luxury cars, rivaling the biggest manufacturers, and sometimes even surpassing them. More crucially, Ferruccio had left his own imprint on the industry. Where Ferrari emphasized competition and racing, Lamborghini stood out for innovation, elegance, and everyday driving pleasure. These cars were not just racing machines, they were works of engineering that could be appreciated in all circumstances, whether on a winding road or crossing the streets of Rome in style. The success of the Lamborghini Miura and the 350 GT had propelled Ferruccio Lamborghini to the top of the automotive world. In a short time, he built an empire that rivaled Ferrari and captivated the world's attention. However, like all great stories, Lamborghini soon faced significant challenges. Ferruccio, being the visionary he was, knew that success, no matter how great, is never guaranteed. And it is precisely in times of difficulty that his true character would reveal itself. The early 70s marked an unexpected turning point for Lamborghini, after having experienced years of prosperity with its tractors and sports cars. Ferruccio was confronted with a series of unexpected crises that would test not only his patience, but also his resilience. The first blow came when a major agreement with the Bolivian government, which was supposed to allow him to supply 5,000 tractors, was suddenly canceled following a coup in the country. This cancellation caused a massive financial hole in Lamborghini Trattori, the tractor company that had been his first success. Ferruccio had always known that the business world was unpredictable, but he did not expect geopolitical events to threaten the stability of his company. Without the expected revenues from this huge contract, Lamborghini Trattori began to falter. Debts piled up, and for the first time since its inception, Ferruccio found himself facing a situation that was completely out of his control. In a desperate effort to save the family business, he made a difficult decision. He sold Lamborghini Trattori, his first creation, the one he had led to success. But this was just the beginning of the troubles. Because shortly after, the oil crisis of the 70s hit the global automotive industry hard. The price of oil soared after the embargo of Organization of Arab Petroleum Exporting Countries, the Organization of Arab Petroleum Exporting Countries. And with it, the demand for luxury sports cars dropped dramatically. As gasoline became scarce, fuel-guzzling cars like Lamborghinis with V12 engines were no longer a priority for consumers. The global economic crisis shook the entire automotive industry, including Lamborghini. Ferruccio, having faced numerous trials, struggled to keep Automotive and Lamborghini operational. He reorganized production, sought investors, and even tried to diversify his activities to offset the drop in sales. But despite all these efforts, it became increasingly clear that the company would not survive this crisis without a major change. After much thought, Ferruccio made the most difficult decision of his career. He sold the majority of his shares in Automotive Lamborghini. For a man so passionate about his work, it was a devastating cost. But Ferruccio knew that he could no longer bear the weight of the company alone in a rapidly changing market. In 1974, he sold 51% of his company shares to a Swiss group. A year later, he sold the rest of his shares, thus permanently leaving the world of automobiles. At that point, many thought that Lamborghini's dream was over. Despite withdrawing from the automotive industry, Ferruccio maintained his entrepreneurial spirit. He decided to focus on a more modest field, but just as exciting for him, viticulture. Ironically, he, who had rejected the path laid out by his parents in the wine industry, found himself returning to his roots by investing in a farm near Lake Trasimeno in Umbria. There he produced high-quality wine under the Tenuta Lamborghini brand, thus demonstrating that, even in a different industry, he was capable of producing excellence. Despite Ferruccio Automobile's departure, Lamborghini continued its journey, passing through the hands of several different owners, including an Indonesian group, then Chrysler, before being acquired by Audi, a Volkswagen subsidiary. In 1998, under the direction of Audi, Lamborghini experienced a renaissance. Iconic models like the Gallardo, the Huracan, and the Urus, the brand's first sport utility vehicle, were born, and the brand regained its place among the global leaders in luxury automobiles. With record sales, especially in the US, Lamborghini regained its status as a global icon. Lamborghini's return to the top in the early 21st century was not just a victory for the brand, but also a tribute to Ferruccio's vision. Even though he was no longer in charge, the spirit of innovation, audacity, and excellence that he had instilled from the first days of Automobile Lamborghini continued to permeate every new creation. Ferruccio's passion for perfect engineering and timeless design had forever marked the automotive industry. In 1993, Ferruccio Lamborghini left us at the age of 76, leaving behind an immeasurable legacy. He had started as a simple farmer passionate about mechanics and ended his life as the creator of one of the most prestigious brands in the world. His story is a lesson in resilience, vision, and determination. Despite the crises and obstacles, Ferruccio Lamborghini never stopped believing in his dream. Today, Lamborghini remains prosperous, with its name being a byword for luxury, performance, and refinement. Behind every Lamborghini on the road, a man's story tells of his refusal to limit himself to the world's expectations, despite difficulties and others' doubts. Ferruccio Lamborghini wasn't just a tractor builder turned car manufacturer. He was a visionary, an innovator, and a shining example of what can be accomplished with hard work, passion, and unwavering will.